She told me straight to my face, "I'm not cutting off my ex just because you're insecure." That one sentence shattered something inside me. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to Family Tales by Ethan so you never miss out on these fascinating stories. And let us know what you're watching today in the comments. That night still plays in my head like a scene I can't fast forward. Her name was Rachel, and for nearly 4 years I thought we were building a future together. I wasn't the type to demand much, just loyalty, respect, and a sense that we were both pulling in the same direction. But apparently, that was too much to ask. When I met Rachel, I was a 27-year-old software engineer, freshly promoted at a mid-sized tech firm in Seattle. She was this bright-eyed marketing graduate with a knack for charming a room. We met at a rooftop birthday party through mutual friends, one of those nights where laughter flowed easy, and the city lights felt like they belonged to us. She had that kind of energy that made you forget to check your phone, that made you want to stay in the moment. I fell hard, and I thought she did too. Early on, she mentioned her ex, Dylan. They dated in college for a couple of years, but broke up after he quit his job to find himself on some backpacking trip across South America. She painted him as irresponsible, a guy who couldn't stay in one place long enough to build anything real. I thought that chapter was closed, that I was the safe harbor she'd been looking for. For the first year, things were easy. Late-night takeout, spontaneous road trips down the coast, endless inside jokes that made even the worst days bearable. But slowly, without noticing, I began to bend myself around her comfort. When she lost her first job due to layoffs, I didn't hesitate to help. I paid her rent for a few months, proofread her applications, even introduced her to contacts in my circle. She'd thank me with teary eyes and promises that we were a team, that one day she'd make it up to me. I believed her. When she finally landed a solid marketing job, things seemed to level out. She was confident again, glowing, full of plans. But that's when Dylan started slipping back into the picture. Began innocently enough, a text here, a funny meme there. "He's just checking in," she'd say with that disarming smile. I tried not to read too much into it, until the notifications started popping up more often. Photos of him at beaches, festivals, hiking trails, his carefree life on full display. Rachel would laugh, roll her eyes, but there was always that glint in her gaze, the kind that made my chest tighten. I finally brought it up one evening. "It's weird," I said, trying to sound casual. "Seeing his name pop up all the time. Doesn't it bother you at all?" Her face hardened instantly. "You're overreacting, Nate. Dylan's part of my past, but that doesn't mean I have to erase him. People can be friends after breaking up. You're being insecure." That word, insecure, lodged itself in my chest like a shard of glass. It wasn't jealousy. It was about respect, boundaries. But I swallowed it down, told myself not to ruin a good thing. I wanted to trust her. Around the same time, life threw me what should have been a dream opportunity. My company offered me a senior developer position in Amsterdam. Bigger salary, bigger projects, a once-in-a-lifetime chance. But Rachel's reaction was pure panic. "You're really thinking of leaving? My whole life is here, my friends, my family. Dylan's going through a rough time too. I can't just disappear." It stung that she mentioned him in the same breath as our future. Still, I turned it down. Told my boss I couldn't take it for personal reasons. Rachel cried with relief that night, saying, "You're my rock, Nate. I don't know what I'd do without you." 6 months later, the offer came again. Better pay, better perks. I brought it up gently, hopeful she'd reconsider. But she hesitated. "Amsterdam sounds cool, but I'm not ready to uproot everything again. Besides, Dylan just started therapy, and I want to be around for him." That was strike 2. My boss called me insane for declining twice. I told myself love required sacrifice. When the offer came a third time, our relationship was already cracking. She was distant, distracted, always glued to her phone. I'd walk into the room and she'd flip her screen over. I didn't need to ask who she was texting. She'd talk about Dylan's adventures, about how he's really living life, and how I should be more spontaneous. "Your job's amazing," she once said, "but it's predictable." The word hung between us like poison. One night over dinner, I tried to keep my voice calm. "Rachel, I need you to hear me out. This Amsterdam thing, it's not just about work. It's about us starting fresh somewhere new. She sighed, pushing her plate away. I get it, Nate, but you're making this about jealousy again. You want me to stop talking to Dylan to prove something. That's toxic. Her tone was dismissive, cutting. I stared at her for a long moment before replying softly. If it's that important to you to keep him in your life, then maybe I've been fooling myself, she scoffed. I'm not cutting off my ex just because you're insecure. Grow up. I smiled faintly and said, fair point. Then I got up from the table, walked into the bedroom, and opened my laptop. My hands didn't tremble this time as I typed out a reply to the HR email I'd ignored for weeks. Subject, Amsterdam offer, acceptance. I hit send. For the first time in years, I felt something close to peace. The weeks that followed were surreal. I didn't make a big announcement, didn't tell Rachel or even my closest friends right away. I just detached, quietly. There's a certain calm that comes with deciding you're done fighting for someone who's already halfway out the door. Rachel went on with life like nothing had changed. She was cheerful, posting selfies with captions about personal growth and cherishing old connections. I recognized the coded language. Dylan was still very much in the picture. Meanwhile, I was spending late nights packing up boxes, finalizing documents, and finding someone to sublet my apartment. Every tape seal felt like a small declaration. I'm leaving this version of me behind. A month before the move, the inevitable conversation happened. She came home one evening, smelling like wine and late-night laughter. We need to talk, she said, voice heavy with self-importance. I almost smiled at how predictable it was. Okay, I said, setting my laptop aside. She sighed, brushing her hair back. I feel like you're suffocating me lately. The jealousy, the questions about Dylan, it's exhausting. I think I need space to figure out what I really want. Space, I repeated. Right. And does Dylan fit into that space? Her eyes flashed irritation. See, there it is again. You're so paranoid. Dylan's my friend, he gets me. You used to be fun, Nate. You've become safe, boring. I can't live my life around someone who's afraid of change. I laughed softly. It was absurd. He was the one who ran from commitment, and somehow I was the coward. Funny, I said quietly. I turned down Amsterdam 3 times for you. Does that sound like fear to you? She blinked, clearly thrown off, but she recovered fast. Whatever. Maybe that's part of the problem. You overthink everything. I need freedom, Nate. I'm not cutting ties with Dylan just to soothe your ego. There it was, the same line again. Fair point, I said, standing up. If that's what you need, I won't stop you. Her expression shifted, confused. Wait, what? You're just okay with this? What's left to argue about? I asked softly. You've made your choice, she scoffed, grabbing her bag. Unbelievable. You're gonna regret this, Nate. No one's going to put up with your boring, predictable life. When the door slammed, I just sat there in the quiet, listening to the echo fade. Then I poured myself a drink, opened my balcony door, and watched the city lights flicker below. It hurt, of course it did. But beneath the ache was something else. Relief. Over the next few days, I blocked her number. Not out of spite, out of self-preservation. She'd call, text, leave half-hearted apologies or guilt trips, and I knew if I answered, I'd be pulled back into her chaos. So I didn't. I threw myself into preparation. Sold off furniture, canceled leases, tied up projects at work. My coworkers congratulated me, assuming it was a long-planned move. I let them think that. The truth, that I was escaping a relationship that had drained me dry, wasn't something I wanted sympathy for. Nights were the hardest. Lying in bed, I'd replay old conversations. Her laughter, her warmth before things soured. But the more I remembered, the clearer it became that I'd been walking on eggshells for years, mistaking imbalance for devotion. 2 weeks before my flight, she tried one last time. A mutual friend texted, "Hey, Rachel wants to talk. Says you're being immature." I didn't respond. The next day, I got an email from her. "Nate, I don't know why you're ghosting me. You're blowing this out of proportion. Dylan and I are just friends. You've made it weird. Can we please talk like adults?" I read it twice, then archived it. There was nothing left to say. When moving day finally arrived, I met the new tenant, a quiet grad student named Marcus, handed him the keys and wished him luck. He smiled, unaware of the weight those walls had held. I drove to a hotel near the airport. watched planes take off through the window, and realized how long it had been since I'd felt anticipation instead of anxiety. The morning flight to Amsterdam was early. As the plane lifted off, the skyline of Seattle disappeared beneath a blanket of clouds. My chest tightened, not from loss, but from something close to freedom. The first few weeks in Amsterdam were a blur of adjustment. New routines, new faces, new air that didn't carry her scent. The city had its rhythm, the soft hum of bicycles, the distant chatter in cafes, the scent of coffee and rain. My colleagues were welcoming, my apartment overlooked a canal, and the work was exhilarating. But the real change was internal. Every morning I woke up lighter. Every night I slept deeper. Slowly the ache dulled into clarity. I hadn't lost Rachel. I just stopped losing myself for her. A month later, a friend back home sent a message. "Hey, saw Rachel and Dylan together. Guess it's official now." I just smiled at the screen, sipped my coffee, and typed back, "Good for them." I meant it, or at least I wanted to. Months passed, and Amsterdam started to feel like home. The cobblestone streets, the echo of laughter along the canals, the quiet confidence that came with finally putting myself first. It all became part of me. My work thrived. I was promoted faster than expected, trusted with projects that challenged me in the best ways. Weekends were for exploration. Paris, Berlin, Copenhagen, places I'd only dreamed of before. Each trip was a reminder that I hadn't just left Rachel behind. I'd left behind the version of myself that thought love meant shrinking to fit someone else's comfort. Then, one morning karma came knocking, not loudly, not dramatically, but in quiet fragments through mutual friends. "Hey, man," one of them messaged. "Just thought you'd want to know. Rachel and Dylan split. Apparently he ran out of money and bailed on her mid-trip." I stared at the message for a while before replying, "I hope she's okay." And I did, not out of lingering affection, but because I knew what it felt like to watch something you built collapse. Still, part of me couldn't ignore the irony. She had traded stability for excitement, only to end up with chaos. As the weeks went by, more bits trickled in. Rachel had quit her job to follow Dylan on his travel blog journey, burning through savings I had once helped her build. When he ditched her, she came back home broke, jobless, and humiliated. Her old colleagues had moved on, her reputation tarnished by the impulsiveness she once glorified as freedom. Friends who used to defend her had started keeping their distance, and then, one afternoon, she reached out. The email came to my work account, a name I hadn't seen in months. "Nate, I heard you're in Amsterdam now." "That's amazing. I'm really happy for you. I know I said awful things before and I was stupid. Dylan turned out to be nothing like I thought. I miss talking to you. Maybe we could catch up? Just as friends." I read it sitting in a cafe by the canal, the scent of espresso and rain in the air. I didn't feel anger, just an odd stillness. Once upon a time, that message would have wrecked me. Now it barely stirred the surface. I closed the email, archived it, and went back to work. Over the next few weeks, her attempts grew desperate. Unknown numbers called it random hours. Texts came from accounts I didn't recognize. "Please, Nate, I messed up. Dylan left me with debt. I don't have anyone else to talk to. I know I hurt you, but you were always good to me. Please just pick up. When silence didn't work, guilt did. You've changed. I thought you were better than this. I'm drowning here, and you're just ignoring me." Then came the family outreach. Her sister messaged me on Instagram. "You're cruel, Nate. She made one mistake, and you're acting like she's the villain. She's crying every night. Be a man and talk to her." Her mom called too, voice soft, guilt laced in every word. "She's lost everything, dear. You know she's not perfect, but she loved you. Don't you think she deserves a chance to apologize?" But I'd learned something crucial in Amsterdam, that forgiveness doesn't require reopening old doors. Just means refusing to carry the weight anymore. So I ignored it all. Blocked, deleted, moved on. Until 6 months later, fate placed us in the same room again. It was at a wedding back in the States, a mutual friend's celebration. I hadn't planned on going, but my flight schedule aligned perfectly, and part of me wanted closure I never really asked for. The venue was small but beautiful, filled with fairy lights and soft music. I was catching up with old friends when I saw her. Rachel. She looked nothing like the confident woman I remembered, her hair unkempt, her dress creased, her smile forced. The years had caught up with her faster than they should have. She noticed me almost instantly. Her eyes widened and she made a beeline toward me. "Nate," she breathed out, like saying my name was an act of relief. "You're here. God, you look great. I didn't know you'd come." "Yeah," I said evenly. "It's been a while." She nodded, eyes glistening. "Listen, I know this isn't the place, but please just hear me out. I made a mistake. Dylan destroyed me. He cheated, drained my savings, turned my friends against me. I lost everything. I see now that you were the only one who ever cared." Her voice trembled. A few guests nearby glanced our way, whispering. "Nate, please," she said, stepping closer. "I can visit Amsterdam. We can start over. You have your dream life now, and I want to be part of it again." For a moment I felt a pang of the old ache, the one that used to make me second-guess my own boundaries. But then I remembered every time she'd chosen him, every time she'd called me insecure for wanting respect. I set my glass down and met her eyes. "Rachel, that chapter's closed. I've moved on. There's nothing left to fix," she blinked, stunned. "That's it? After everything, you're just done?" I nodded. "Completely." She let out a bitter laugh. "You'll regret this. You think you've won, but karma doesn't play favorites." I smiled faintly. "You're right. It doesn't." As she turned away, I caught my reflection in the bar mirror, steady, composed, free. The same man who'd once given up everything for someone who saw him as safe. Only now, I realized that safety wasn't boring. It was peace. Back in Amsterdam, life continued to bloom. I earned another promotion, met new people, started dating again, not in search of completion, but connection. Sometimes late at night, I'd think about how strange it all was, that the same woman who once told me I was predictable had unknowingly pushed me toward the most unpredictable, fulfilling life I could have imagined. Call it karma, call it growth. Either way, I didn't need to win. I just needed to walk away, and I did.